Welcome to the last day of February and this edition of The Truth. I'm John Gordon. President Trump went to Congress earlier this week and addressed Congress for his annual State of the Union speech, and it was classic Trump. By all accounts, he knocked it out of the room. And he was just as good as I've ever seen him. He was direct, as you would expect. He hit all the key points. The economy and immigration were front and center, and also peace around the globe. Meanwhile, a skirmish is simmering with Iran. I don't know whether we're going to attack Iran or not. President Trump has been so braggadocious about keeping us out of any armed conflicts. I would be a little surprised if we attack Iran, but it certainly seems like we may be headed in that direction. We've got a lot of assets in the Persian Gulf now, and they're pointed at Iran. So we'll see. But back to the State of the Union, Trump received just a very enthusiastic response when he walked into the United States House of Representatives. People applauded, they hollered, they clapped. I've never heard an ovation go on and on and on for as long as this one did. He seemed to be absolutely relishing and loving the moment. And you could tell that the crowd was feeding off of him and he was feeding off of them, with the exception of the Democrats. These people are so bad. Some of the Democrats would not even stand when President Trump welcomed and acknowledged the U.S. hockey team, and which just pulled off a spectacular win in the Winter Olympics, as you know. And that was too much for them to do, because it may have somehow, they think, benefited Trump in some way. And that, I keep saying, let's bring our country together. Let's figure out where we have things in common that we can agree to. They can't even celebrate the gold medal by the Americans in the Winter Olympics for hockey. It's really sad. And eventually, I think it will backfire in a real material way. I think the American people are going to get fed up with it at some point. I hope they get fed up with it as soon enough so that we can win the midterms. Everybody's focus is shifting to the midterms, and we've got a lot of work to do. But meanwhile, I think people are yearning and demanding accountability in a lot of different quarters, and that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. First, just consider the fact that the U.S. economy is trending on every indicia. Every metric is trending in the right direction. Inflation is down to 2.4%. That's down from 9%, the high water mark with Biden. Prices are still sticky. Now, that's the one thing that is problematic for Trump and the Republicans in the midterms. When you say inflation is down from 9% to 2.4%, that doesn't mean that there's no inflation. So while groceries, milk, other staples zoomed up, they haven't really come down. They've just stopped growing. The prices have stopped increasing, but they haven't come down that much except for petroleum. And that's integral to just about everything that you eat, drink, or participate in life. Virtually every product has some sort of petroleum connection to it. Plastics, petroleum is an integral ingredient in plastics. Bottling uses petroleum to make the bottles, containers. And then when the products are shipped to you, they're not beamed up. They come via truck or rail or ship, and those all are dependent on petroleum. So the price of fuel is really a driver in our economy, and fuel is at an almost record low for Trump. Not lower than it was in Trump 1.0, but gas in some parts of America is now under $3, and that is just huge. That's going to have ripple effects in a positive way for the economy. Now, Unemployment is still kind of hanging at 4.3%. It did come down 0.1% for January numbers from 4.4 to 4.3. So we have a trend line of 1 encouraging us that unemployment is going to tick down. New jobs were up dramatically. They were predicting 50,000 new jobs for January, and there were 150,000 new jobs created. So that's very positive news. Tariffs are still kind of in the gray area. We don't know exactly how Trump is going to work the tariffs out, but he has said that he's going to go to a standard 15% tariff across the board, and they're going to use other legal powers that they have to invoke the tariffs as opposed to the emergency powers, which the Supreme Court said, no, it's not an emergency. You can't use the emergency powers. So Trump's got himself surrounded by a lot of very good people, and I think that they will figure it out. But, you know, the amount of money that's come into the Treasury just this year is over $200 billion just from tariffs. So if President Trump will use that newfound money and reduce our debt with it, this could be a very positive thing for our country. He said he's going to impose meaningful budget discipline, and he is going to get control of the federal debt. But I'm telling you, it better happen, and it better happen in a hurry, or else we could be in a world of hurt with respect to our national debt. And there are a lot of countries that are not buying our bonds right now. And our own Federal Reserve is not buying their bonds. In fact, they're selling them. But they're selling them to ordinary Americans, not foreign interests, which have been consumers of our debt in the past. China has pared its U.S. debt way down. And so this is telling you that investors, foreign nations, are not viewing the U.S. as a good investment when they're shedding their bonds at pretty rapid levels. And the other biggest, the even bigger problem that I see right now with respect to the debt and our economy is that a lot of the bonds that were issued 10 years ago are now, when interest rates were effectively zero, and now those bonds are coming due. They're reaching maturity, and they're going to have to be reissued at, I don't know, what, 4 or 5%? And that is going to put even more pressure on the federal government and potentially increase our already bludgeoning debt. So it's really a concern, but President Trump didn't dwell on that. He dwelled on the fact that petroleum is down, that unemployment is coming down, that interest rates are ticking down, that we've had a huge amount of deregulation, which is good for business. And also the big, beautiful bill is now finally coming into play. People are going to start getting their refund checks, and elders are not going to be paying tax on Social Security, and servers are not going to be paying tax on tips. And so those could be real stimuli, I guess, for our economy. And so that bodes very well. But even though, as Trump was trying to recognize people in the audience that are heroes or have done remarkable things like our hockey team, some people just weren't happy. Here's a Trump clip from the State of the Union.
So tonight I'm inviting every legislator to join with my administration in reaffirming a fundamental principle. If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens. Isn't that a shame? You should be ashamed of yourself not standing up. You should be ashamed of yourself. That is why I'm also asking you to end deadly sanctuary cities that protect the criminals and enact serious penalties for public officials who block the removal of criminal aliens. In many cases, drug lords, murderers all over our country, they're blocking the removal of these people out of our country, and you should be ashamed of yourself.
They should be ashamed of themselves. That's Ilhan Omar, and what was that other congresswoman there that we could see on her right, or her to the right of her? Anthony, you know who she is? I can't remember her name, but she's another member of the squad. These people are just freaking out of their minds and yelling and being disrespectful. Ilhan Omar came here. She married her brother so he could come here. That's illegal. And then she's profited by being in the country. She came with a negative net worth. Now it's $25 million. Something's not right. And but she still professes to dislike our country. I really do wish that she would just go back to Somalia. I have no regard for her at all. Speaking of people I have little regard for, Hillary Clinton was on Capitol. Well, actually, she was not on Capitol Hill. Capitol Hill came to Chappaqua, New York, and took Hillary Clinton's deposition this week. And she said as clearly as she could that she did not know Epstein. Here's what she said on the front steps of the building where they conducted the deposition.
Well, I have just finished testifying. I answered every one of their questions as fully as I could, based on what I knew, and what I knew is what I said in my statement this morning. I never met Jeffrey Epstein, never had any connection or communication with him. I knew Ghislaine Maxwell casually as an acquaintance. But whatever they asked me, I did my very best to respond. It then got, at the end, quite unusual because I started being asked about UFOs and a series of questions about Pizzagate, one of the most vile, bogus conspiracy theories that was propagated on the internet, that was serving as the basis of a member's questions to me.
Well, she said she didn't know Epstein, that she had never been to his house, never been to his island, never been on his airplane. Well, but it does appear that she did know him. And emails contained in the 3 million emails and documents that were dumped by the Department of Justice 2 weeks ago clearly shows that they had some kind of relationship. In one of the emails, whoever this person was says, you know her quite well, or talking to Epstein, that you know Hillary Clinton quite well, and you're going to see her at the Harvard Club on Tuesday, October the 7th. Another email talks about, I think it's Ghislaine Maxwell. She said that Ghislaine Maxwell came to Chelsea's wedding as a +1, as if they didn't know who she was. And the fact of the matter is that President Clinton and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton have Secret Service protection. They know every single person who comes in contact or who's going to be in their presence, and they're vetted. And it's just implausible that she says, oh, Ghislaine was just a +1. Yeah, right. So, you know, they just do what they always do, and that is they just lie. And just like Howard Lutnick, I mean, he's going to be called before the House Oversight Committee because he said that he lived next door to Epstein, but only saw him one time when he went to call on him as neighbors. He and his wife went next door, and they got a tour of Jeffrey Epstein's house, and they went to the living room, and there was a massage table, and Lutnick said, well, that's kind of unique. And Epstein replied, yeah, I get a massage every afternoon, and it's a really good one, if you know what I mean. So, Then Lutnick said he didn't know Epstein, never said he and his wife decided to never go back. And then in the document dump, we find an email from Lutnick to Jeffrey Epstein saying, hey, we're going to be in the Caribbean after Christmas. Maybe the wife and I, we could stop by with our 2 children to say hello. I mean, it's just a big fat lie. And now Lutnick's going to have to go up there to Capitol Hill and explain his lapse of memory because he said he didn't know Epstein and only saw him in that one time at his house when they went calling. I mean, it's just so disappointing. Anyway, Fani Willis is back in the news.
A second story that I know you probably heard about, it was trending all day on social media. We're calling it the Fani Files. That's right. Georgia's former prosecutor, the current Fulton County District Attorney, Fani Willis, was indeed plotting all along with the Biden White House, the Biden Justice Department, and the January 6th Democrat Committee to plan her case against Donald Trump and his associates, those who were involved in protesting election results. Now, we all think in America we have protection from double jeopardy, meaning we're not going to be prosecuted twice for the same crimes. But what you see in the new documents that Just the News obtained with the help of the America First Legal Institute, tremendous public interest law firm. We spent 3 years fighting for these documents. Fani Willis claimed they were privileged, claimed they should be redacted, claimed we weren't entitled. We ultimately won them. 8,000 pages in all. You got to see them this morning. Is that the Biden White House worked with Fani Willis and said, listen, we'll pierce President Trump's executive privilege. You can have anything you want. Now, that's very rare. Executive privilege is almost never pierced for a state prosecution or state civil case. Secondly, the Justice Department said, you want access to our people? No problem. We'll sign 2 agreements and allow you to get our best people to testify before your state grand jury. Then the January 6th committee said, come on down, get any documents you want, any videos you want. We'll help you make the case. That happens. Then, as you're going to learn tomorrow, Fani Willis's office was offered a grant. Literally, the Justice Department said, hey, just apply for this grant. We'll give it to you as a sole source. All right, so some money is exchanging during the same time frame. And then Jack Smith brings his federal case against Donald Trump. And then right after it, Fani Willis, just a few weeks later, brings a state case, basically double jeopardizing Donald Trump and all of his colleagues in these cases, double draining the legal resources and the reputational stock that those people had by twice indicting them, and then creating a dual-barreled investigation and prosecution. Now, at the end of the day, both cases ended up getting dismissed, as you know. But millions of dollars in legal bills were spent, reputations were ruined, and now we're seeing a triumvirate, a triple-headed siren working together. Congressional Democrats, Justice Department, and White House under Biden working with a Democrat prosecutor in Georgia to create that scenario.
So it's just shameful that Fani Willis would have ruined the lives of 19 people, or tried to at least. And she did really have a very harsh effect on many, 19 people, including President Trump, because they were trying to save an election. And, I'm so tired of the refrain, President Trump tried to overturn the election without evidence. It's just a damnable lie. And Fani Willis was there, and we didn't know really what her deal was. Now we know that not only was she acting with Jack Smith, the January 6th Commission, and the Biden White House because they were trying to cover up an election they had stolen, but she was also paid $2 million to do it. I mean, why this woman is still district attorney of Fulton County, Georgia, and why she's still allowed to walk the streets free is beyond me. She should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law for her graft and corruption and her trips with Nathan Wade to the Caribbean at effectively taxpayer expense, where she funneled money to Wade, who then took her on expensive trips. And, oh, yeah, she repaid it with money that her daddy told her to hide under her mattress. I don't know. The whole thing is just an embarrassment and disgusting, and I hope that justice is served at some point. So the new mayor of New York, Mamdani, watched video of people hurling snowballs at New York police officers as they were walking through Central Park and trying to perform their duties. It's shameful. Here's a clip if you haven't seen it.
New York City's Mayor Zohran Mamdani defended the mob that launched snowballs, they were blocks of ice and rocks, at the police. Listen to this.
I've seen videos of kids throwing snowballs at members of the NYPD in Washington Square Park. And first I want to say that officers have been on the front line of helping our city respond to this blizzard. They and our entire city workforce deserve to be treated with respect. From the video I saw, it looked like kids at a snowball fight.
Yeah, right. Kids at a snowball fight assaulting New York police officers. Now, look, if it was a snowball fight, that would be one thing. I mean, I have actually seen police and kids engage in snowball fights before. I've seen it on YouTube and in videos. This is not recently, but they were doing so in good fun. And it was obvious that it was in good fun. But this was not a snowball fight because it was one way. And it was an assault on New York's police officers. And if it had just been snowballs and maybe just one or two of them, okay, we can laugh it off. We'll turn the cheek and look the other way. We'll keep moving. But this was a full-fledged assault on these officers. And some of the snowballs contained rocks and sharp objects, sending at least 2 police officers to the hospital for injuries that they sustained. Mamdani, I think he's going to fizzle out. I think that people are going to tire of him very quickly. Do you know that 24 homeless people died on the streets of New York over the last month by virtue of the cold weather? And Mamdani would not pick them up. He would not go and rescue them. He said, oh, well, they're adults and they can do whatever they want. If they want to sleep outside, then they can sleep outside. And that's the thing that just really gets me going. The Democrats talk so virtuously and they act so demonically. Talk with virtue and act like demons. And says he cares about people and cares about New Yorkers. Doesn't care about the homeless people, because he left them out there on the streets, and many, many of them died. And it makes me have a very heavy heart, and I really feel sorry for those folks because, they had nowhere to go, no way to get there, and Mamdani should have been their savior. Instead, he allowed them to die. We come to you every Saturday and Sunday from noon to 2 on the John Fredericks Radio Network, up and down the East Coast, 8 cities, 24 AM and FM radio stations. I think they're going to be adding some more if my intel is correct. We also come to you on cdm.press. They're a Atlanta and Miami-based organization that has news outlets in both of those cities, Northern Virginia and Colorado. 13 digital platforms, in fact, and they take our stream every Saturday and Sunday and redeploy it over their social media outlets. You can also find us on Rumble and Getter, Facebook, YouTube. Just look for John Gordon Live. And if you like what we do, please consider subscribing. I really would like to earn your faith and confidence by getting you just to subscribe to our channel. It doesn't cost anything. It takes a click of a button. And you can also like it if you do. And those little acts really mean a lot because it helps broaden our audience. And the broader the audience, the more good guests we can get on. We have been on a roll lately. We had Governor Scott Walker in February. We had Peter Schweitzer, the author of The Invisible Coup, just 2 weeks ago. We got James O'Keefe coming up in the next week or two. I do hope. He told me he would. We just have to tie down his schedule. And then a host of other people that have just been great guests, and I've really enjoyed having them. And I love having this opportunity every week to bring you the best programming that we can. And look forward to talking to you next weekend about a brand new sponsor that is just in the process of signing up with us. Today's broadcast is brought to you by Perfect Circle Renewable Energy. They are a restaurant services company located in Atlanta, Georgia. They service restaurants from the front of the house, the back of the house. They collect their waste vegetable oil, clean their vent hoods, and their grease traps. So if you're tired of inconsistent, dirty service, give PCRenergy.com a look over. You can find them right there on the web, PCRenergy.com. Give them a call. They have operators throughout the day, 15 to 18 hours a day. You can talk to a live person, and if you miss them, they'll call you back within a reasonable period of time. No automated attendance and no hopeless voicemail. And like I said, they answer the phone during normal business hours, but they also have extended hours too. They've been in business for 20 years and just do a great job in Atlanta for their restaurant partners. All right, well, we've got a good rest of the program for you today. I appreciate your joining us so much. Oh, before I go, John Fetterman, you know, the more I get to know him, the more I like him. He still votes for the Democrats, with the Democrats 91% of the time, but they're furious at him because he went ahead along with the Republican budget recommendations that the House passed that then went to the Senate that really would not have passed were it not for John Fetterman, and it avoided a government shutdown. Now the Dems are just mad as hell at John, calling him all sorts of names, and he says, hey, I don't care. I'm doing what's right for the country. And you got to admire that. Maybe someday he'll even think about changing parties. Wouldn't that be something? All right, we've got Marlon Marichet, a retired L.A. Police detective and sergeant of 24 years. We're going to talk about Nancy Guthrie's kidnapping and the Minneapolis ICE shootings and the worn-out calls to defund the police. Then we have Sam Anthony on. He's the founder of yournews.com. It is a platform for citizen journalists. He's up to like 5,700 citizen journalists that write and develop stories for yournews.com. And he's getting millions of visitors every month to his website. We interviewed him earlier this week, and he's already put it up on his site, and we're already getting a lot of attention, a lot of views. So stay tuned for those interviews. This is The Truth. I'm John Gordon. Thank you so much for joining us. Nancy Guthrie has been lost and missing for almost a month. The clues seem to be non-existent. They found a pair of gloves. Maybe it was Michael Jackson's other glove. I don't know, but it doesn't appear to have a connection to Nancy Guthrie. But here to help us sort it out is retired L.A. Police Sergeant Marlon Mariacha, and he joins us today on The Truth. Marlon, welcome, or should I call you Sergeant?
Marlon's just fine. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And let's talk about this bizarre kidnapping abduction case, if you will.
It is bizarre. I mean, kidnappings in the U.S. are pretty infrequent these days, are they not?
True. Very, very true. And it's got that element of professionality, if you will. And for some reason, and I'm sure we're going to get into this, is that I don't know the connection between sending ransom notes to media outlets like TMZ and Harvey Levin. No offense to him, but I just don't see how we can connect that into this full-blown investigation.
Well, do you think that there's what would you ascribe to be a percentage probability that Nancy Guthrie is alive?
Oh, gosh, that's a good question. First and foremost, my heart just breaks for the entire Guthrie family, because the ultimate goal, right, as we're having this conversation, is to get her home safely. And so we're in day 18, and yeah, it's this is a tough one. I would say it's pretty minimal in terms of percentage, but I don't want to think that way. But we'll see what the days ahead are all about in terms of this operation, right? This investigation. So,
In your 24 years, did you ever work a kidnapping case in LA?
no, but what I can speak to is a lot of critical incidents. So this is considered to be a critical incident. So I have responded to numerous officer-involved shootings, in custody deaths, that sort of critical type of police actions. And I can tell you from the lens of a scene management, that's when I can really pull the curtains back and open up the doors and go down those rabbit holes as to how you should manage such a scene. But yeah, in my career out in the streets in the city of Los Angeles, yes, we've had some critical missings of sorts.
But this critical missing seems to defy explanation to me. I mean, I've like you, and I'm not a member of law enforcement. The closest I've come is I worked for the Bibb County District Attorney for a couple of years when I was in law school a long, long time ago. But as you said, sending a ransom note to TMZ or any media outlet. I mean, why didn't they send it to the Today Show if they wanted to really have an impact? If they really wanted some bucks, because they have the bucks, they could have ponied up. I always put things on a continuum. I start on one side of the continuum with a kind of a conservative approach.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing that you would think in a kidnapping is that it's for money. Then I guess you start to go out on the scale and you would say revenge.
Mm-hmm.
Then you can continue to go out on the scale and say robbery gone wrong. That's a narrative that seems to be circulating right now.
Mm-hmm.
Then you can keep proceeding out on the continuum to a point where I'm getting to in my own mind, but I don't want to bias your thinking just yet. So let's keep going down the rabbit hole. Do you have a hunch? Do you have an idea of what could have motivated this?
For certain, I think that it's a familiar individual or individuals. And I say that because in my experience, let's take the demographics and the location, for example. You have a secluded home up in the foothills, and the houses, there's gaps of real estate in between. So the suspect or the suspects have to have worked this case up, meaning there has to have been some preliminary watching and observing as to who's going into this house or not, or they could have just known that the Guthrie family lives there, right? Specifically being Nancy. And here you are at late at night, 1, 2 in the morning, and you go in there and do the criminal deed, if you will. So to me, it seems as though it's a bit personal. Someone that's familiar with the area, someone that's familiar with the family. We can all agree that being a public figure does give a sense that, hey, let's target and let's be very mission specific as it relates to the victim. So that's my theory. That's my hunch.
But not Savannah Guthrie. I mean, she's America's big sister or little sister in my mind. She's one of the sweetest, nicest, and I don't know her, I've never met her, but that's her persona, that she's just a nice, wonderful human being. And her mother seems to fit the same description. I think that her DNA came straight from her sweet mom. So I if it was Nancy Pelosi's relative, I can see why somebody would be really angry.
Yeah.
I'd be a suspect. Not really. I'm being facetious.
Right.
We're in the entertainment business, but I'm just saying, this was not someone who was despised. I mean, she doesn't evoke that kind of emotion. Certainly not in me, and not anyone that I could imagine. I don't even know where she is on the political spectrum. Actually, the problem is that I quit watching the Today Show about 20 years after having watched them basically for 45 years because I got so disgusted with their talk tracks and the way they reported the news that I couldn't stomach it anymore. But so I quit watching. But I have general familiarity All right. So you think it was somebody that knew at least Nancy Guthrie? Well, why would they want to? What do you think they were up to? I don't even know whether she had she lives in a nice house.
Yes.
I don't know how much money she's got. She didn't,
Right.
It's not ostentatious by any stretch of the
Right.
imagination.
I would probably even go down that rabbit hole that this is kind of like a sham, right? It's not a professional hit, if you will. It's kind of like an amateur job, knowing the fact that, yes, I am sending these ransom notes to this great admiration for Harvey Levin, and nothing against him, but we don't know the authenticity of those notes.
Yeah,
He's not telling
exactly.
us much. So I can't really put too much trust
I'm right there with you.
into that angle of the investigation. But to your point about emotions, sometimes when you get these serial violent criminals, if you will, right, there is a sense of fixation, whether they're emotionally attached, enjoyable, or enraged. I don't think that necessarily really matters in the sense that, hey, we want to go do the score and we want to go ahead and kidnap this person. But yeah, you're right. I mean, she is a sweetheart, but I just don't know how much that plays into the fact that, hey, this is what we committed on doing. And so we move forward with this investigation. And by day 18, there's so much that has transpired that I have some really strong opinions about the scene management and the power struggle, which I've been talking about since day one, where you have the Pima County Sheriff's Office, right? The sheriff taking command and control of this incident, and yet you have the FBI coming to help and assist.
I think you're on the trail, Sergeant. You're like lining up with my thought process identically. And you can ask our listeners. I don't kiss up. I don't butter up to anybody. I just tell you what I honestly believe.
Yeah.
And so we're getting there. Continue.
Yeah, what I was going to say is that what I call a power struggle, what I mean by that is that anytime you have a multi-jurisdictional, multifunctional operation, you have to make a determination as to who's going to take the lead. Well, when you have egos in the way and it's a little bit self-serving, hey, I'm the sheriff. This is my county. These are my people. I am going to solve this. This is so nationalized. This is so sensationalized that, you know what? This might be a feather in my cap. However, we can all agree that the FBI has all the necessary resources, tools, equipment, manpower, and firepower to conduct what I call, quote unquote, no stone goes unturned, a full-blown investigation. And so when you have that power struggle behind the scenes, it can affect this entire investigation. And that's where we're at today.
I don't personally, the idea that the sheriff is acting out of ego does not resonate with me. He just doesn't come across as that kind of guy to me. Now, Kash Patel, I can talk to you about his ego. But I think the message that I got from the sheriff and from them sending the DNA to a lab in Florida versus the FBI, which reputedly is the best crime lab in the world.
Right.
To me, I interpreted as a demonstration of a complete lack of trust in the FBI. That's the vibe that I got.
Right. Well, what I will say is to kind of rebuttal that, if you will.
Please. I'm not saying that's the case.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that's
Right.
how it came across to me.
Right. I can just tell you from a law enforcement lens, there is a sense of pride. 100%. There's been times where LAPD has handled a major investigation, maybe bordering the county of Los Angeles. Just to give an example, maybe the city City of Commerce, or maybe like Bell, whatever the case may be, or just little outside cities where they border the city of Los Angeles, where it say, you know what, we're taking lead on this, and this is going to be ours. We're good at what we do. Take a step back, because this is what we're going to do.
I like that. I'll just so let me show you my hand, okay? I'll show you my hand now. I don't trust the FBI, the CIA, the alphabet agencies in Washington as far as I can throw this 10,000-foot building that I'm sitting in. They have destroyed my trust. And I'll tell you why. They killed the 35th president of the United States. There's not a shadow of a doubt in my mind. And the CIA with Lyndon Johnson and the Hoover FBI covered it up. I don't know about Building 7, but I've got more questions than answers. My antennas are up. Most architects and engineers who have studied it have said that it was a controlled demolition. I have talked to people that claim personal knowledge that it was some sort of a demolition, not a result of a weakened foundation from the Twin Towers falling 2 football fields away. I don't think that we have gotten the full story on January the 6th. I'm convinced you'd have a very difficult time convincing me that the 2020 election was not, in fact, a stolen election and it was covered up. And the same type of narrative applies to it as does Lee Harvey Oswald, who they still tell us acted alone. And I don't even think he was in the sniper's den. There are no fingerprints there from Lee Harvey Oswald. There was no paraffin on Lee Harvey Oswald, but there is a fingerprint from Mac Wallace, who was LBJ's hitman, who was convicted by a jury of 12 men and women for killing the Agricultural Commissioner in Texas, who was on an investigation against Johnson for unfair, illegal use of cotton allotment credits. I'll stop there so we can keep moving here. But it's disturbing to me.
Yeah.
This is our own government, for God's sakes.
Well,
and if that is true,
mm-hmm.
what else is true? And I don't think we even are close to the truth on Epstein. The U.S. attorney for the Southern District of Florida testifying before the United States Senate in 2018, they asked him, why did he go light on Epstein? He said, because he was told to, because he was intelligence. What more do you need to know? I don't think we would have been going light on him if he was Mossad intelligence. I think we were going light on him because he was CIA and maybe Mossad and maybe MI6. But the fact of the matter is, I don't believe the narrative. I don't believe it for a second. And nor do I believe that Thomas Matthew Crooks tried to assassinate President Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania. And the errors, omissions, and cover up and the narrative that has been ascribed to that is laughable. And then the taking of America's treasure, who I knew, who was the smartest human being I have ever met, who was devout to his faith and a patriot to his country, was snatched from us with an assassin's bullet, a lone assassin's bullet in Utah. Of course, I'm talking about Charlie Kirk. The thing that strikes me, what are we not talking about? What is dominating Fox News every night?
What we're not talking about is, unfortunately, the unknown. We just don't know much about the theories and you know, the complete incidents.
No, I'm asking the question too vaguely.
Yeah.
We are consumed with Nancy Guthrie.
Correct.
I have a great deal of empathy.
She's a public figure.
Well, she's not, but her daughter is.
Correct. We are all to be held accountable why this went national and sensational.
Okay, but what I'm saying is we are consumed with it.
Yes.
But what are we not talking about? What are we not talking about while we are consumed with Nancy Guthrie? We are not talking about Epstein and the 3 million pages that dropped and the demonic, unbelievable, unconscionable activity that some of the most powerful people in our country were engaged in. And I'm talking about not the exploitation of young girls. I'm talking about the exploitation of young children and the cannibalism of young children. The most demonic, vile behavior I've ever heard in my entire 73 years. That's what we're not talking about. Coincidence?
No, I check the box on that one. I'm not here to convince you as to your thoughts into what you believe, what we're not talking about. What I'm here to really tell you is, just from the FBI lens, is look, we have over 400 investigators assigned to this critical incident. And certainly the Pima County Sheriff's Office needs that assistance. Whether you believe in them or not, guess what? They have the necessary tools and resources to conduct, again, like I said, quote unquote, no stone goes unturned, full-blown investigation.
I think they're there. I think they're engaged. I'm just saying that the reason that they didn't give them the DNA or the gloves were because I don't think they trust them. And nor do I, nor do a large number, a large percentage of the United States population.
Could be.
Because we have seen it over and over and over again.
Yeah, but I don't think we're going to define, I don't think just because the FBI came here to assist in this multi-jurisdictional, multifunctional operation defines everything that you just mentioned about the FBI. I honestly think, and I know plenty of FBI agents, I've been around law enforcement over 27 years, long enough to know that the FBI does have the necessary resource. I don't think Pima County does. I understand your point and your view about the DNA being sent to Florida, and as opposed to just there in the state of Arizona. There's different methods and operations by which each agency is working, but it sounds to me like there was a power struggle in the beginning. And as nice of a guy the sheriff is, in my opinion, you need the help. You need the resources. You need the tools. You don't have enough personnel to conduct a full-blown investigation. You don't.
So let me ask you, you're now in the private sector. You're no longer with the LAPD.
Correct.
After a long and successful career there. Who are your clients?
For me, in my world, in my lens, would be law enforcement in general. Yes.
Do you have any contracts, or you receive money from the federal government?
No, not at all. Everything that I work for is through my service, and I have a lens and a niche that's very, very unique to internal affairs. So I used to be called the IA guy in my podcast, and I just rebranded it to the Marlon Marachi show. But anything that you would consider to be disciplinary in action as it involves to the department alleging wrongdoing on behalf of the department to an accused employee, those come my way, and we consult and we talk about it. And sometimes I look at investigations and, again, tell you if every single stone was turned. That's what I do.
Well, I'm listening to you, and look, I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist. I just don't. We've been told that it's bad. The more I see, the more I believe that we're told that it's bad because it discourages people from thinking out loud in those ways. And Charlie Kirk and I had a conversation on this program of over a year ago, and we talked about all the ist: conspiratorialist, sexist, racist, homophobist, nationalist, all the ist. And we agreed that they are designed primarily to chill free speech. Whoever does not want these conversations to take place. And so we're afraid to talk. I'm not. I'm old enough that, I don't know how much runway I have left, but I really don't give a damn. I just, am over it. You'll get this way too before, whether you want to or not. It's liberating.
Yeah. Interesting point you bring up. I've always, I've investigated, and I've been in numerous officer involved shooting cases where there has been scene management and officers. I will never tell you if it's a good shoot or a bad shoot. I'm not one to pass judgment and put myself in the shoes of a law enforcement officer. But and I just don't like passing judgment on things of the past. I'm always one for the present. I'm one to think that, hey, if you need the help, we're here to help you. And regardless of what people think of the FBI or not, guess what? They actually have, again, and I'm going to keep saying this again and again, that they don't have all these science and, forensics tools, gadgets, bells and whistles that a local sheriff's office doesn't have. And so let's work together and make that happen. However, when we make that decision, you have to work unified. And to me, it seems as though now, right, we're working in silos. You know, hey, I'm going to send the DNA over to the state of Florida because I don't trust you guys. Well, you
Yeah.
know what? The actual procedure is to do the DNA analysis here in the state of Arizona, because through the chain of custody, this is something that we have to do it proper. Another example, you know what? I'm just going to let the media and the family back into the crime scene. Well, you know what? That's something that you might not want to do. Basic fundamental crime scene management is get a inner perimeter and an outer perimeter. And in that inner perimeter, you have to tape it off and assign an officer that's got a crime scene log that's going to pretty much say, okay, do you have permission to come into the crime scene? Put your name, time you stepped in, and the time that you left. Then you cast a wider net and do an outer perimeter. That way you have diligence. That way you have a step-by-step, and you can ensure that this scene is not going to be contaminated nor compromised. And guess what? The sheriff's office pulled a rookie move there. I can tell you the FBI wouldn't have done that, regardless of what you think of them.
Well, and regardless of what you think of them, it's not their jurisdiction. It is the duly elected sheriff of that county's call.
True.
And so while I acknowledge your point, look, here's the problem that I wrestle with internally is that I believe that there are legions, and I mean legions, of really good men and women that put it on the line every day for us and this country. And so when I talk about the FBI and the CIA, I feel a tinge of guilt in that I'm not indicting everybody there. And I've had a lot of interviews on this program with whistleblowers, people who've worked for the FBI. I had John Kiriakou, who was a CIA agent, on the program last week. And we had very spirited, good conversations. The goal is to get to and reach the truth. But I don't want to malign everybody that's worked for the CIA or the FBI or other intelligence or law enforcement agencies.
Yes.
I gave free rent through my charity to 2 Atlanta police officers after a horrible police shooting of a 92-year-old grandmother in the worst zip code in America. It shocked my conscience so bad that I went to that neighborhood and volunteered and actually started a charity called the Friends of English Avenue. And so we donated free housing to two police officers for 3 or 4 years. And it really had a very positive impact. So, and as I mentioned earlier, I work for the district attorney. I'm very pro law enforcement, very pro military. And so I don't want to malign anyone. But when we talk to these people, they're like, the rank and file are great. No problems. It's the management where the problems reside.
Yes.
That's what we're trying to ferret out here, I think.
Yeah. Yep. Unfortunately, sometimes the rank and file get their marching orders and they do what's best to the best of their abilities. I couldn't agree with you more. It's where management and the upper leadership, where we start having a little distortion as to who's going to take lead and all that. And it's just very, very unfortunate because, again, you and I have agreed in the beginning, the ultimate goal here is to bring Mrs. Guthrie home safely.
100%.
That's what matters the most. Unfortunately, sometimes egos and self-serving ways get in the way.
All right. Well, we've heard you've made that point. Now, let me ask you, I know you don't pass judgment on police officer shootings, but what about Minnesota? There were 2. There was a lady in a car who she got shot and killed. And then there was the nurse who got killed by ICE. Your perceptions of those?
Yeah, let's wait and see until the entire investigation is completed. I can tell you.
I don't need an investigation to tell me what I can see with my own eyes and ears and the good brain that God gave me.
Well, it does. I can tell you, it doesn't look good in both, for sure, 100%. I mean, a lot of OISs just don't turn out to be exactly what it is. However, with that being said, yes, there is cell phone video from the officer in the Renee Good that we still have to examine it and analyze. And again, you got to take the totality of the circumstances as it relates to both. But what I will say, and I will add some scrutiny is the Preddy shooting. Yeah, man, that's going to be very, very controversial as to all the actions and the tactics that led up, that led up to engaging in deadly force. So
I think you and I see it very similarly. With the lady, that's Ms. Good. I'm sorry, she made a fatal mistake. You do not use an automobile as a lethal weapon.
Yeah.
She struck the officer, for God's sake, with her car.
Yeah.
And her emotions were elevated. She was obviously hysterical. And I think she acted out either through anger or maybe she was legitimately trying to get away and just maybe didn't even see the officer until it was too late. But she struck him.
Yeah.
He went to the hospital from being hit with her car. I'm sorry.
If I may interject, having sat on numerous officer-involved shooting investigations with a shooting officer or shooting officers, look, those interviews are very frame by frame, second by second, as to the thought process, right? So you got to get perception. And unfortunately, there's no body-worn video, so we're definitely going to have to go with perception. And the same thing with the Preddy shooting. However, where the scrutiny really, really falls and that scope gets very narrow is the actions, the tactics. If you deviated from your tactics substantially that led up to engaging in deadly force, we're going to have some problems depending on how you explain that, especially in the Preddy case.
So here's where I am. Not that you asked for my opinion, but our listeners want to know. I think Preddy is a much closer case than Ms. Good. But I'll just tell you this. When you go looking for trouble and you find it, I don't think that's on the other guy. Yeah. And Preddy went to that protest. It was not his first time. He had been at protests earlier in the week.
Yeah, 11 days.
He was clearly a provocateur. And in previous engagements, he had gone there unarmed, we are told. But in this case, he went there with a handgun stuck in his belt. And so, and the temperature was very hot. The crowd was hot. The police officers were on edge. And I feel bad for Mr. Preddy. I feel worse for the police officer that shot him because I do not think he was acting out of anger or malice. I think he was dealt a bad hand. And I think he made a 1/10 of a second decision that he probably regrets today. I give the judgment, I err on the side of the police officer in that case, which is very different than the police officer in the George Floyd case. Mm-hmm. That police officer had 12 minutes to make his decision. Mm-hmm. And he was surrounded by 5 other very fit cops. And Floyd was on drugs. He was a big guy, but he was subdued and he was basically begging for his life. I'm sorry. I don't defend George Floyd, but I think this police officer staying in prison is a miscarriage. Oh, I'm sorry. No, I think just the opposite. I think that for him not to have been disciplined
would be a miscarriage.
Would be a miscarriage of justice. Yeah, I do.
100%.
All right. So, well, I'm glad. I mean, I think we've agreed on more than we disagree with, other than the use of the FBI lab. And I understand your point totally. But do you worry about the deep state? I mean, do you worry about notable national events that have occurred that defy explanation, that seem to have their fingerprints that tie back to at least the MO, if you would, of the deep state?
Yeah, good question. I do worry. I do worry in a sense that I guess a better answer for me would be I don't know how we got to a national sensational news about a kidnapping case. There's so many kidnapping cases that are going on around the nation right now, and it's not getting the attention that it is on this particular one.
Well, I mean, I've told you my theory. I think it's a cover up for the Epstein case and all of the and did our government go in and kidnap Nancy Guthrie? I don't know. That seems like a stretch, but we haven't come up with a better theory.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got the robbery theory, we've got the ransom theory, and I got the deep state theory. I think they're each perfectly plausible.
Yeah.
And the issue in my mind is I don't think we'll ever know.
Yeah. That's the saddest part about it. And it's just so unfortunate. It really is.
So, what was life like on the LA police force? I mean, you all seem constantly in the news, and you were there, the person on the front line to defend them.
Yes, a lot of violent calls, if you will. I mean, I can think back in my times when I was a sergeant in patrol, and I would log on and get in my black and white, and come 6-7 p.m. I would just chase the radio, is what we call it, right? Service calls all the way to 4 or 5 in the morning. And that was just, that's citywide. That's in the entire city. Of course, some cities are more violent. Some parts of the cities are more violent than the others. So, yeah, it's been quite a ride. It has afforded me a lot of success, enough to come here to have a good conversation about crime scene management and that sort. So, yeah, 25 years of police experience, and happy to share anything that people would like to know about.
Well, you strike me as being a very good person, and you tote the company line a little bit, and that's okay. I mean, that's how you've been conditioned. And I don't object to that. I'm not anti-police. I do want to cover one last topic with you.
Yes.
And that is defund the police.
Yes.
I think that is probably the most idiotic thing I've ever heard of, because those very people, the first thing they're going to do when something goes bump in the middle of the night is pick up their phone and dial 911.
You said the words right out of my mouth. In the end, regardless of what side of the aisle you're on politically, you know what? You got to call 911. Public safety should always be number one.
But here's what I would say. And because of the Katherine Johnston shooting in Atlanta, if you're not familiar with it, please Google it, and you can Google my name in conjunction with it. Why we did not have riots in the street in Atlanta, I think, is really a tribute to the mayor at the time, Shirley Franklin, and the police chief, who I wasn't particularly fond of, Chief Pennington. But I think that they did a phenomenal job because they did not hide in their offices. They came to the Lindsay Street Baptist Church in the center of the neighborhood where this horrible, abusive shooting occurred. What happened in a nutshell is it was shoddy police work. They didn't do their homework. They put the wrong address on their no-knock warrant. They lied in order to get their no-knock warrant. And it just went really bad for them because they entered the house of a 92-year-old who lived alone. And then they tried to say, oh, well, her grandson was dealing dope out of the basement. Well, that story had a little problem with it because it turned out he was an all-A student and an Eagle Scout and didn't take any drugs or deal in any drugs. And so we could talk for a long time about it. The long and the short of it is 6 Atlanta policemen are still in prison for filling this grandmother full of 32 rounds of ammo as they unlawfully and illegally entered her house at night. But I was outraged. And so I was probably the only white person in Atlanta who went down there. And I met with Reverend Anthony Motley, who today is one of my best friends. And we talked about how we could make lemonade out of these lemons. And we started a charity, and we started trying to revitalize the worst zip code in America. And that brought the attention of the owner of Chick-fil-A and the owner of the Atlanta Falcons, and they're still doing the work. And I really commend them for the good work that they've done in this community. Here's my point. Police work is hard. It's dangerous. You got split seconds to make decisions.
Yes.
I want to support every single one of them. But I've been a lawyer. I've worked for the county. I've worked in private practice. I worked for a Fortune 500 company. I ran a campaign for governor. I have run my own businesses for 38 years. There's not a single one of them that I haven't experienced bad people. Mm-hmm. It's just a fact of life that there are bad people in the world, and they don't discriminate on I'm going to join this industry or this entity versus another. They're just bad people.
Yeah.
My frustration, here's the point, with the police is that they have their own internal affairs. It's the fox guarding the hen house, and you got the police investigating their own. I think that the knee-jerk reaction to defund the police doesn't come from bad policemen. I think it comes from a lack of accountability for bad policemen.
Yes, I'm with you 100%. We have these buzzwords of accountability and transparency, and we're not good at both. I'll leave you with this. There are over, I want to say, north of 800,000 police officers in the United States, and I want to say there's about 18,000 agencies, approximately, in the United States. I'll be the first one to tell you, because I've been in police discipline and internal affairs, and I teach this stuff. I have a California post-certified course. I went to law school, and my job was to be a police attorney. That's all I wanted to do when I retired. But we'll save that for another conversation. With that,
you're going to come back?
Yeah,
There's going to be a next time.
Yeah. What I will say is this, and I'll be the first one to tell you, because I've prosecuted cops, I've defended cops, and I'll be the first one to tell you: is there corruption? Yes. Is there do cops cut corners? Yes. Is there shady cops out there that shouldn't even be wearing the uniform and carrying a badge? Absolutely. To your point, we're human, and that's who we hire from, is the human element. And you're going to have those bad apples. And you know what? We are all held accountable to ensure that those bad apples don't remain as cops. So.
Well, or that they get desk jobs or whatever. But I mean, you and I are perfectly aligned. I love law enforcement. I love policemen. I'm not on a mission. I'm actually here to help them. Yeah. And after the Katherine Johnston murder, I did go to City Hall for 2 years lobbying for reforms in the police department, because good people want accountability for their institutions, because bad cops make them all look bad.
Oh, 100%.
If you want to find a model law enforcement officer for my office, for my money, come to Palm Beach, Florida, and look at Sheriff Bradley's sheriff's department. I have met 24 of them. They are the nicest, most polite people I have ever met, and they appear to be here to serve. And they cover one of the largest jurisdictions east of the Mississippi. I just think they do a fabulous job. That to me is the gold standard. And if every law enforcement office in the United States aspired to that, I think our country would be much better off, and we'd have a lot more cooperation and recognition for the good work that these police officers perform every day.
Thank you. Thank you for your support. We really appreciate it.
It has been a pleasure. I hope you don't object to the spirited conversation that we've had. It certainly meant in the best of intentions, simply to help expose what the truth is and get away from the narratives, and hopefully to help make this a better place for all of us.
Absolutely. I'm with you. I really enjoyed it. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Have a great rest of your weekend.
You too. Thank you.
Sam Anthony says the mainstream media is dead. He may not be too far off. In fact, he told me that the average age of Fox viewers was 72 years old. I fact-checked him. He was wrong. It's 70. My gosh, what's going on here? Welcome to The Truth.
Hey, John, thanks for having me.
Sure, Sam. So tell us why, and I don't, I think you are on the low side on broadcast media. Grok says it's actually probably more like 2 million, but for 25 to 50-year-olds, even still, that's way down from where we were even 5 years ago. Well, why are people turning away from mainstream media?
They have options. A lot of people think it's because they're not telling the truth, which could be. But back in 1990, we had, 5 options? ABC, NBC, CNN, Fox, maybe MSNBC. Today, YouTube has 60 million channels. There's Rumble, there's Spotify, there's BitChute, there's TikTok, there's Instagram. There's literally millions of people that you can follow and watch. And there's still a demand for news. It's just consumption has changed, right? And the older demographic still watches, what they're accustomed to, but it's the younger generation. Nobody's following up with their footsteps.
Well, it really just flabbergasted me when I saw, I am a Fox consumer, and I watch Maria Bartiromo just about every morning, and I watch Fox and Friends on Saturdays and Sundays, and then I watch Bret Baier in the evenings. So I guess I'm among that aging and declining demographic that watch Fox. I was really surprised by that.
Yeah. So remember, there's still a demand. It's just how people consume it has changed. So you and I grew up in a different era, and the way we consumed information was totally different. I have neighbors of mine that are in their 80s, and they watch cable news. They don't even get on the internet. They have no interest in it. So they're not privy to alternative news. But look, YouTube created a technology where anybody can become a broadcast journalist. You don't even have to go to broadcast journalism school. Did you know that?
I did know that because I did not go to broadcast journalism school, and we've got a pretty good YouTube channel going right now, but we'd like to grow it, and I don't think YouTube really likes our content, so we're throttled. They don't let us expand. We started our YouTube channel 3 years ago, and we've got 2,000 viewers. We started our Getter channel 3 months ago, and we've got 2,000 subscribers. So that tells you something, I think.
There you go. So it's the messaging they don't like.
So you've got an alternative to this, and you're growing like a weed.
Right, because remember, everything is moving to platforms, right? So if you're talking YouTube, I believe they have 61 million active channels. Rumble has 250,000. I never looked up Instagram or TikTok, but they're in the millions.
Yeah.
And what happens is the money goes where the people are. So, you know, with literally tens of millions of people on these platforms, it drives all this traffic, which attracts ad revenue. So this is why the legacy media is not going to survive. It's because all the people are on platforms. What I do, a lot of people think I'm in the news business because we have a platform called yournews.com, and when you log in, it geolocates you. It doesn't matter if you live in Miami, Chicago, Phoenix, LA, it'll log into that city, so it's going to look like the LA Times on steroids. I'm in every city in the United States, so what we have is scale. But at the end of the day, I'm not in the news business, I'm in the platform business. We are a news content distribution platform. So we serve news to a city, to a county, to a market, state, regional, or national. And we even have a world news section. Current amount of content creators is just over 5,700 news reporters throughout the United States and around the globe, providing local news. It sounds like a lot, right? But let me tell you, because it's so broad in scope, I have within lifestyle, I have home and garden, food and wine, travel, I have faith, I'm trying to try and think of all science and technology, I have sports, hockey, basketball, baseball, football, polo, it's endless, right? All these different categories, business, entertainment. So the content creators, nobody tells them you're going to be reporting this. Everybody has a passion for something, and they report on what's exciting to them. I was, as we were talking earlier, the tennis that was going on in Doha about a week ago, or I think it was about a week ago, I have news reporters in Doha that were covering all those stories and submitting it to me. It's amazing.
Well, you know where I get a lot of my local news? Next door neighbor. I'll get a notification. Oh, there's so many cops at the public store on Southern Boulevard. What's going on? And then 10 people will respond with what's going on at the public on Southern Boulevard. Things have really changed since I was a kid. And the town I grew up in deep in the South in Macon, Georgia, WBML, I can't remember what I had for breakfast this morning, but I can remember WBML from 45 years ago, had roving reporters. And when a fire engine went out, or a cop or an ambulance, they would follow them to the scene and report live on the scene of what was going on. Now you got next door neighbor doing that.
Well, there's just
and
people.
Your channel.
Well, right, but they're driving by. But let me tell you what's happening. So you saw the stuff that Nick Shirley broke, right?
Yeah, sure.
Did Nick Shirley go to journalism school?
I have no idea.
He did not.
I don't think he's been to school at all. I think he's 20, or is he 23? I think he's 20. I just met him at Mar-a-Lago.
Oh, you did?
6 weeks ago. Nice kid, super nice, and really mature beyond his years. And when you talk to him, he's very stoic. He doesn't talk a lot, but and he's relatively quiet when you speak with him, but he's very, very polite, and seems to me to be extremely smart. But he and his mom started this when he was 14, and just in a matter of 6 years, he's blown up into an international figure. And yes, Minnesota fueled the fire, but he got the Citizens Journalism Award from James O'Keefe's organization. They give an award to citizen journalists, basically YouTubers, and he won the award. So I was there and was able to applaud for him. But it's amazing that it took a 20-year-old to go uncover the fraud in Minnesota.
John, so just so you know, on LinkedIn Navigator, which is the platform I use for marketing, there's about 500,000 people that call themselves freelance journalists. There's 200,000 student journalists, and they're all part of the downsizing of the mainstream media. They have nowhere to go. So if you want to know why the mainstream media is not covering that stuff, it's because the Palm Beach Post, the last time I had a conversation with somebody over at the Post, which was a big organization 20 years ago if you were living here, they have 20 news reporters or less. 20. It's because all the money's dried up because it's all going to the platforms where the people are. So somebody like Nick Shirley, that's proof that everything is moving to citizen journalism. That is absolute proof. And then what we do, that was a local story because every story starts somewhere, right? So that was a Minneapolis story, but because of the size of the $19 billion in fraud, it, gained national attention. But there's a lot of stuff that my journalists are covering that are not really considered national news, that are local stuff, that they're breaking stories throughout the United States, but only the people in Greensboro, South Carolina care maybe, right? So it could be their sports, politics, business. It's where everything is headed.
So how many people are on yournews.com? How many consumers?
Total viewership last month was well over 1 million.
So have you monetized it?
Yeah, so we have...
How are you making money?
So we make money off of advertisers, but we have a monetization model for news reporters. So this is where everything's headed. You know how YouTube monetizes people, Rumble monetizes people, X monetizes people. What's the other ones? Facebook even has a monetization model.
Sure.
Well, we have a monetization model, and the way it works is the content creators sign up, they create an account. Once they get approved as a monetized journalist, they submit their work. There's an approval process. So we don't fact check anything because how could I possibly know what happened in Schaumburg, Illinois at that city council meeting, right? But the only thing a journalist has is their credibility. It's like you. If you were lying to the public, how fast would they tune out on you?
Pretty, but as fast as they do the mainstream media.
Exactly. So we let the public, if somebody's lying, the public will let us know, and then we'll get rid of them. So it's really a true marketplace with free speech. The difference in our niche, I guess you could say, is the local news. It's the church bake sale. It's the city council meeting. It's the high school football game. It's the stuff that really isn't relevant on an X platform or on a YouTube. We're talking local news, and 99% of my content is local news all over the United States and non-political.
Isn't that interesting? I probably wouldn't do so good on your platform.
Oh my God,
we're political.
Oh yeah, but I have a multimedia channel. Where we air Lindell TV. I've got Patriot TV listed on there. And then I've got about 300 conservative podcasters that distribute content on our platform via the embed codes from Rumble. So the audience we have, and keep in mind, I don't believe in censorship. So I believe even if I disagree with your opinion, we're gonna run it. And we don't attract a lot of liberal content. I would prefer to, because my personal opinion is I think both sides need to be heard and the public needs to decide. But I'm sure as we scale and get bigger and you get to 10 and 20 and 50,000 content creators, people are going to come in and you're going to start pushing their own agenda.
For sure.
Right? I don't care. Doesn't matter to me. So my audience right now, probably 99% conservative. And they're
So who do you sell advertising to, and how do you get the advertising?
So it's all self-service. So you could be Joe's Pizza in Portland, Oregon, and you could buy an ad, and you could drill down to one specific zip code, and you could target around a specific type of content. So when you talk scale, we'll think of the paper here because we're both in Palm Beach County, right? So you have the Palm Beach Post. Well, they have a website. So they have a sports section, right? Mm-hmm. However many ads they could put on their sports section, John, I could do in one zip code. It's like having 70,000 different editions. Ads are on a best bid basis, meaning national ads run at a penny, but local ads, hyper local, are a dime. It's like literally 10 times the money. But how many people read on Clematis Street, mm-hmm. right? There might have been 10 people that saw your ad, your bill's $1. But it's targeted, is what I'm getting at.
And so you pay based on how many people click on it?
How many people view. So we're not a click-through model.
Well, how do you know when somebody's viewed an ad?
Well, because when the advertiser selects the content they want to run around and the geography, which could be a city or a zip code or multiple zip codes, when somebody queries that page, we know where you live because of your IP address. And then when your ad pulls, it will deduct whatever your rate is, whether it's a 1 cent, 2 cents, 10 cents. So they prepay in advance. It's like, remember the prepaid phone cards, you know, where you have $10 in there, and it draws down off your account. So if you have $1 in usage today and you had $10 in your account, you now have $9.
That is fascinating. How did you come up with this idea?
Oh my God. So years ago, me and a couple guys believed that the newspaper industry was going to collapse.
Yes.
And we set out to build a platform to replace it. Now, I'm going to share something with you because at the time, I did not believe the media was lying. That was not why we were doing this. Mm-hmm. And we failed miserably. And you know, we had a platform that wasn't a zip code driven platform at the time. It was city specific, and we were trying to figure the whole things out. I ended up getting another partner, and this may resonate with you. The trick is, how do you get local news in every city in America, and how do you do it cost effectively? Well, you know all these local radio stations, the independents that have news stringers? Well, radio has distribution, could be, depending on the size of the stick, right? It could, you know, be 25 miles, 50, 100 miles, depending on the signal. And radio gets a small piece of the ad pie because 99% of the businesses are moms and pops that do business in a small geography, so they buy the Valpaks and the local newspaper. Well, what our platform did, because they all have a website, but their website is an extension of their signal. So we created, you know how Fox, CBS, ABC, they all have the national networks with affiliates? I built an organization of affiliates across the United States of all independent radio stations providing local news in their DMAs, right? And what it did was it attracted a new customer base that would never buy from them. Make sense? Mm-hmm. Then all of a sudden, one year, I believe it was in 2000, maybe 15 or 17, I started to lose a lot of affiliates, the radio stations, and I know them all. And I called them and I said, well, what's going on? And they said, well, I'm going to tell you who the first guy to go is, the news director, because they're not producing any money, right? Mm-hmm. So they have to switch that part of the station to something, you know, they buy the content or they plug in somebody else. And those were the first people to go. So they started to get rid of the stringers and the news directors. And a couple of them told me, you better change your model because we're not going to be around in the future. He goes, Sam, I own 3 stations. The only reason I listen to radio is because I own them. Otherwise, I'd be listening to Sirius radio. That's what he told me. And I said, you got to be kidding me. So I imagine, you know, all your customers have cancer, right? So basically, you know, once they're gone, I'm gone. And so one day I just had this epiphany. I said, what if we go to a monetization model? Well, that required ripping the engine out and, you know, rebuilding the whole thing so that you could have content creators that would actually be monetized. So we did it. Then we had to test it. And this is going back probably maybe 5-6 years ago. And we started doing that and it worked. Now, this is still in its infancy because newspapers were still going well. And by the way, this would have been Trump, it was after Trump won the election, but it was in 2016, I think. Was that when Trump won? 2016,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's when I realized that the mainstream media was actually lying when they went after Trump and started manufacturing stuff, because they had me convinced he wasn't going to win, right? Because I'm a mainstream,
Right.
I'm watching Fox News just like you, and I'm like, oh, he don't have a chance. All the polls are against him. And it turns out, once he won, that everybody went after him. I'm not talking Fox, but I'm talking about the other networks. All of a sudden, he was the devil, right? And I went, what the hell is this? So then I realized what we're doing is really important, because at the end of the day, it's really the media is the reason we're in the mess we're in today. I don't know if you believe that or not, but that's my view. I think it's the media's fault, because if they were calling everything the way it really was supposed to be, none of this stuff would have existed.
So I don't know if you were asking me a question or just a
Go ahead.
rhetorical comment, but my personal belief is that our federal government is rotten to its core.
Completely.
And I think that most of the rot is in the intelligence community, who operate off the books. They have no oversight, they have no one to report to, and they have basically unlimited amounts of funds. I don't think everybody who works in the intelligence is bad. I think that probably, I don't know what percent, I'm going to say 85 or 90, just a wild guess, are good. But there are 10 or 15% with power that are evil. I think they killed our 35th president. I think they had something to do with 9/11. I'm not sure what. We know they should have known or had reason to have prior knowledge of the attack. No one has satisfactorily explained the implosion of Building 7, which happened 6 hours after the Twin Towers collapsed. I think that Butler, Pennsylvania, have all the fingerprints of intelligence on the person who tried to assassinate President Trump. It's the same storyline. Oh, a crazed, lonely assassin living in Mama's basement. And I don't even think it was Thomas Matthew Crooks. I think more than likely it was Maxwell Urich, but that's a subject for another day. But our listeners have heard it; they're familiar with it. I don't believe that this Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk. The 30-06, for starters, would have left massive trauma on the back of Charlie's head. There was not even an exit wound. Forget no massive trauma. There was no wound on the back of Charlie's neck. So I have become cynical and suspicious of our own federal government, I think with good reason. Now, the media, I think they're in on it. I don't think they're in on it ideologically or for the same reasons. I just think they're paid off. We know that Twitter got $3.4 million from the FBI to censor people during COVID if they talked out about bad about the vaccines. Now, why would our own federal government censor someone if they raise questions about the vaccine? That makes no sense to me at all. But we know it happened. That's indisputable. We know that Politico collects $10 million a year from our federal government for subscriptions that they sell at the rate of $75,000 to $100,000 per subscription to people in the federal government. It adds up to $10 million. Now, if you're giving me $10 million and I'm a weak milk toast, I can't say the word that comes to mind on the radio, which we're doing this interview for. You can fill in the blank. I might take the 10 mil and tell you what they tell me to tell you. No one's offered me any money because they know that it's not going to happen. So that's my paradigm. It is not supported with, I don't have the absolute smoking gun, but we've got more than enough circumstantial evidence to convict somebody of murder.
I completely agree with you. That's my point. And
Well, on that, you can come back now.
Well, in 1985, he's spot on. In 1985, there was over 500 independent news outlets. Today, there are 6 institutions that control the legacy media, and they're basically paid propaganda. It's much easier to control 6 people than it is to control 500. So you hit it right on the head.
Yeah, 100%.
The media, if the media was actually telling the truth, none of this would have been able to happen because it would have enraged people. So it all stems from the government who got control of the media. And this is where we come in with your news. And pay attention to this, because you've seen the Sinclair Broadcasting with the 30 or 40 TVs all saying the same thing at the same time, right? The threat to our democracy. That's called centralized news. It all comes down from one source.
Who is the source?
Well, the guy
Who is the puppet master? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Well, we don't know that exactly, but it's probably the federal government who pushes the agenda to whatever it is.
Well, I don't think there's any question it's some element of the federal government, but I'm trying to identify specifically who that person or those people are.
Well, that one I don't know, but remember this. What we're going to shift to is going to be a platform that allows free speech everywhere, this hyper-local news platform like what we do. But what I do completely decentralizes the news business, and it democratizes who gets to say it. So but here's the thing. It's not just national, it's local, because think of all the corruption. It has to start somewhere, right? You could have the mayor of Omaha, Nebraska that could be stealing stuff, right? And there's inside people that know about it. Well, all of a sudden, that stuff's going to be exposed. Sure. I'm not going to stop it. If the journalist reports it, we're just a platform. We're going to allow that to happen. So it's going to uncover a lot of rot. And this is where everything is headed. So there's 2 ways to solve this problem. There's actually 3. One is shut off the federal government for spending a nickel, and all the bank robbers will go, because as far as I'm concerned, the Democratic Party is a complete criminal organization.
Yeah.
Complete criminal.
I think they have embraced that.
Oh, yeah.
I don't even think they push back on the notion.
Okay, name one thing they have to counter Trump that's an idea to say we need to do it this way. They don't. They're basically saying stop him from taking the money we're supposed to steal. Mm-hmm. That's all they're doing. So
That's basically right.
If you shut down all the money, you can't give it to anybody for anything, they'll all leave. There's no reason to be there. They'll go to the states where they could steal it. California have any openings? That's what they'll do. This is easy, so that's the first way. Second way
I think California is fully employed in the corruption industry.
Oh, yeah, no.
I don't think they have any openings now.
Yeah, I was watching something today. It was a clip, and so the woman that was talking said, and I'm guessing they were, because it was only like a 2-minute clip, they were talking about, of the 246 or 7 billion they take in tax revenue, I'm assuming it's for the income tax for if you live in the state. That's what I'm thinking they're talking. Are you ready for this? 200 people pay 47% of that number. 200. You know, because they're talking about how they need to pay their fair share. And this is about the millionaire tax that they're either passed or they're going to pass.
Yes.
Those 200 people are going to leave, which means they just immediately lost almost 50% of the revenue coming in the door.
It can't happen fast enough for me.
Oh, I want to see
bring it. But and what did they spend? $20 billion on the high-speed rail from Los Angeles to San Francisco, and they built 1 mile so far.
That's it.
I mean, what more do you need to know?
They need $200 trillion to finish it.
Well, I don't think it's going to happen.
I don't either.
I don't think it's going to happen.
So the good news is, if you want to get rid of the problem, you really have to go to a citizen-powered press where it's completely decentralized. And so like I was saying, YouTube, you don't have to be a journalist or go to journalism school to be a YouTuber, and the marketplace decides. With our platform, anybody can sign up to be a citizen journalist, and they can go report news. I'll give you an example. It could be your neighbor, right? Somebody you know that goes to the city council meeting, that comes back, writes a story, and shares it with everybody in the community. That's where it's all headed. It's the Nick Shirleys of the world. But on a local level, we could, because of our scale, I'm guessing we have 20,000 cities, so you're talking, 50 people a city with all the different categories, because not everybody likes politics.
Sure.
Some people like fashion, and they want to talk about...
Most people don't like politics. No. It's pretty far down their list of priorities, frankly.
Exactly.
But they need to pay attention, because it's their lives, their children's lives, and their grandchildren's lives that we're talking about.
John, I have people that report strictly on Formula One. Formula One. Now, I mean, I've seen Formula One races before, but this is their passion. And there's an audience of people that watch Formula One.
So I got to ask you one more question before we wrap up.
Sure.
I know you're a golf aficionado, and you watch a lot of golf.
I do.
So what about the kid at the Riviera tournament this weekend? Did he cheat?
You know what? I didn't see anybody cheat. What do you explain what you mean? Because I watched it, but I was at my mother's house. I had to leave to come back, so I didn't get to watch.
Well, I just watched it for the first time last night, and so I did not watch the tournament. But supposedly Scotty Scheffler was down, I think, 2 strokes. This kid had a 7-shot lead going into the final day.
I saw that.
It narrowed to 2 shots. And supposedly he took his golf club and patted down with a lot of force the turf behind his ball. So he effectively teed up the shot. He ended up winning the tournament by 1 shot, but the penalty for altering the lie of your golf ball is 2 shots. So they're trying to decide whether Scotty Scheffler won the tournament.
And so somebody's reviewing that?
Oh, yeah.
I got to see that.
It is like... the earth is shuddering under this news within the PGA, because golf has been the one remaining sport where integrity really matters. Golfers have always prided themselves on assessing their own penalties if they violate a rule.
Patrick Reed.
There you go.
That he did. Push that sand back. We watched him do it. Do you remember?
Yeah, I vaguely.
He had the club behind, and he was sliding sand back to prop the ball up. Like 3 times.
That's the same allegation, effectively, with this guy, except it's not sand. It's just turf, and he supposedly, and I didn't see the video of it, but he was mashing down the turf behind the ball.
Are you
which
not
effectively puts it on
Are you
the
not
tee.
allowed to do that?
No, you cannot alter the lie of your ball.
Well, I'll probably lose. I'll probably lose every because we just play on the weekends and we go.
Well,
play.
for one thing, you're not a professional
No.
golfer, and for the second thing, I mean, I don't know what's the stake. $2?
Yes, and we're probably going to miss the green anyway. We'll make a bit of difference, but now that you said that, I have got to see that. Yeah.
Well, check it out.
I definitely will.
They say that this really could be the story of the century in the PGA golf world.
Was Scheffler second?
I believe so.
So that means Scheffler would win another one?
That would mean he could potentially win another
And
one.
they could, so once the ruling comes out, if it ruled that he did that, then there's a, God, what a shame.
Just like Tiger Woods in the Masters when he made an illegal drop on 15, his third shot hit the flag and ricocheted back into the water. And so he came back and dropped the ball, but he dropped it a club length behind where his divot was. Now, I thought that was legal. I thought that if you could put where your ball last crossed the margin of the hazard in line with where you hit the ball, you could move back to infinity. Well, evidently,
you can't.
In that case, you couldn't. Someone called CBS after they watched him hit the shot. He had, I think he parred the hole. His second attempt at, now he's lying 4, so that would be 5. He almost holed it out, so I guess he had a bogey. But then they assessed him a 2-shot penalty in the middle of the night. Later that night, the committee met and they said, yeah, that's a violation of the rule. It's a 2-shot penalty. So he lost his lead and he lost that Masters by one shot. And that probably would have solidified him as the only person to have won, I think, 5 Masters.
Wow.
Player, Palmer, Nicklaus, and Tiger have each won 4 Masters. That would have been his 5th. That would have been history making.
And they always use a club length, right? They always take the driver and they are allowed a club length. He didn't go no closer to the hole.
No, he went further from the hole. But these people, this guy on the Golf Channel who I really don't like, he is such a smart aleck. He thinks he knows it all. But he was so vehement towards Tiger, saying he knew he was cheating. He's a disgusting, horrible human being. And he said that Tiger was so precise that he calibrated in his mind that if he hit the same shot over again, he might hit the pin. So he backed it up a yard so that he would land short of the pin, which actually he did. But I don't think that the guy is that precise, but maybe he is.
Nobody's that precise. I mean, he
Well,
could
he's a
have pulled it.
phenomenon
My God.
in any sense of the word. But anyway, well, Sam, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for making the trip down to our new studio. I hope you've enjoyed your time as much as we've enjoyed having you.
This is
And
fantastic.
Please come back soon and often. I want to keep the conversation going. And how do I sign up for your platform?
Yeah, so anybody that wants to become a citizen journalist, you go to yournews.com, you go to the bottom of the page, it'll say become a citizen journalist. You click that. A couple short videos you can watch explains it. Then there's an application. People fill that out. Once they get activated, they get instructions on how to use it. And this is ultimately, at the end of the day, what we do will become the next mainstream media.
Is Nick Shirley on your channel?
No, Nick
On
isn't.
your platform?
I don't have his contact information, but I'm just going to let you know, John. Every content creator only wants two things: broader distribution and monetization.
Hello.
That's it. There isn't a third for the audience. That's the only thing. What I provide is distribution and monetization, and because it's a platform, I could have millions of contributors. And I'm just going to tell you something. The next mainstream media is going to be a global hyper-local news platform. Like my next country will be opening is going to be Canada. Want to know why? Because I probably have 150 freaking content creators from Canada that are going, can you help us? So we'll be able to distribute content into specific cities, or we're going to set it up like a state, right? So it from the standpoint of it'll flow U.S. news in there with Canadian news. We have all the sports, right?
So if I want to watch the news from, I don't know, pick a spot, Norman, Oklahoma, I can just go to your platform, look for Norman, Oklahoma.
Put in the zip code. It'll
code.
take you to Norman, and then just click local edition top stories, and there'll be your news. And I have literally thousands of news reporters covering news all over the United States. It's freaking amazing. And we keep adding them. So it's... I don't know if you know my background, but it's not journalism. People think, oh, he's a journalist, right? They talk. I go, I used to work for Lehman Brothers in Chicago years ago. So my background has been investment banking, capital raising, and this was just something. We believe that the newspapers are going to fail, and we set out to build a platform to replace the newspaper industry. Now it's gotten even bigger, and I never really realized how important this is. Because you can't we're truly a people-powered press. Like normally when you're building a platform like this, people do capital raising. That's why Silicon Valley exists, right? So people go out and raise capital, with institutional money. And I went to have you ever been to a Reawaken America tour?
No.
So when you go there, like I did in Miami a couple times, there were 5,000 people. They're all people like us, right? They're all patriots, and they're there to see General Flynn and all those same people, right? And I said, these are my people. And somebody mentioned to me, you need to do something called an equity crowdfund. And so I'm thinking like Give, Send, Go or GoFundMe, right? I'm thinking I go, what the hell is that? They said, well, no, it's a security, but everybody can participate, but they're limited to the level. So you have to be an accredited investor in order to buy a private placement. But with equity crowdfunds, you don't. Oh. And so like for me, I have institutions that I personally know that I used to bring deals to. So I could bring deals to them. So I decided we're not doing institutional money. We're just raising capital through the people. So I'm doing my first round of funding, followed up by the second one, which was going to be all, I have shareholders that come in that could spend $200, and some people that spend a lot more. But I figure, and you're going to like this, if I told you that I was funded by BlackRock or Vanguard, what would you tell me?
I'd be kind of, I think that would be sketchy.
Right. So if you're really a people-powered press, shouldn't the people own the product, not the institutions?
For sure.
And that's the reason
so
we do it.
So what's the largest investor you've got? What capital contribution?
Well, first of all, he's a doctor. Okay, so he's like you. And
I'm not a doctor.
No, but I mean, he's like one of us. He's not somebody that's got $1 trillion net worth.
Yeah.
He doesn't have his own family office. He doesn't run a hedge fund. I have a couple friends that run hedge funds that would be players in this. But he put in. We've raised in a year's time about $500,000. But keep in mind, the average person puts in $1,200 or something like that. But he put in 100.
Wow, he believes.
And, well, not only does he believe. He's in the process of selling his business. He said, once we get this sold, whatever's left, I want to take the rest. It's I'm doing a small offering.
I lost my train of thought. Your investors, how many investors do you have?
340, maybe.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, 340.
Oh, I know what I was going to ask you. Who does the programming? I mean, that platform's not easy to
you mean the programming, like the coding?
Yeah, the coding for the.
I have a gentleman out of North Carolina that's freaking amazing. No, you can't have him.
My hands are full.
And by the way, I have been through at least a half a dozen people, and whenever you talk to database people, they're always the best. They could always build Google better. They could build eBay better. All of them. This is a guy that from the very beginning, he delivers exactly what I mean, and not only that, he will deliver me things that I didn't know I needed. He gives me. I mean, like that good, like scalability good. Like he'll say, oh, and by the way, this is what I did. I'll give you an example. We get about currently over 2,000 news stories a week. 2,000 that have to be looked at. Well, if you break it out every day, it's 300, right? So, and that's an average. There was one day last week or 2 days, we had 1,500 in 2 days. You approve that, okay? So they're coming in. But we have an infrastructure to be able to handle all that. Well, what he built in the back end was, there's television DMAs, right? So, New York's number 1, LA's number 2, Chicago's number 210 of them. We have all the DMAs built into the system so you can immediately run a story to the Chicago market or the Palm Beach market, which goes all the way up to Sebastian. Boca to Sebastian is where it is. Martin, St. Lucie, Indian River, Okeechobee County. He built market editors in. Now, I never even knew I needed it, but he said to me, he goes, oh, and by the way, I built in market editors. You didn't even know it, but you're going to need it. So the way the market editors work, when somebody becomes, and I just picked up a market editor by accident in Richmond, Virginia. The woman will forget more about the news business than me. She's owned her own newspapers, magazines, right? She saw me on a show.
Well, you're on in Richmond right this moment.
What do you mean?
On our radio station.
Oh,
there.
We're live?
Well, we will be on Saturday. We will be recorded on Saturday. So she will go out in Richmond.
She signs up to be a journalist, then reaches out to me and tells me what her background is. So I'd like to have a conversation. She starts explaining this stuff to me. She's a conservative. And I showed her this, and she's like, what's the parameters for being an editor? And I said, well, I haven't created them yet, but it's got to be somebody like me, that you can't censor somebody, right? I mean, and the way the model works is they get a percentage of the ad revenue of the articles they approve. So if something comes into the, let's say, Richmond, Virginia market, which could be, I don't know how many counties, 20 or 30, they're small, right? That whole market, she's the gatekeeper. So she approves it, that article gets tagged to her account, and so that content creator then starts promoting it on social media, and every time it opens, she gets a piece of the action. So if she approves 100 stories today, she makes money off of 100 stories.
That's incredible.
Oh, so he built it.
Now, what does the editor, what leeway do they have? What is their job specifically?
They're the gatekeeper to the market. And some markets, and he built it so he goes, and plus I could make an unlimited amount of editors in a market, because he says a market like New York, as you scale, you're going to have 2,000 and 3,000 articles a day. One guy can't handle it. So you're going to need more than one editor in that market. So
but what are you editing? What is the goal of the editor?
So content comes in from a content creator.
Right.
They look at it. They don't have to fact check it. They read it. They quickly scan it, and they say,
scanning it for grammar and spelling?
Not really. No.
Or you say you're not fact checking.
Not fact checking.
What's left?
If you don't do this, I'm going to tell you, everybody's kids' Little League game, they think it's front page national news. Okay. So you have to approve it to the proper subject and the geography.
I see.
So you have to. And by the way,
can't you use AI to do that?
You might be able to, but
I bet you your editors are.
The to me, I think people are always more important because they're going to be able to look at something and say this story is a Little League game. Also, if somebody has an event, let's say it's a church bake sale next Sunday, right? Whatever the date is, it's going to expire. They need to set it to expire, and so because it's worthless information after that. So I think hands-on is always going to be good. People used to tell me that artificial intelligence is going to replace all the newspapers or all the journalists. No, it's not. AI can only write a story that somebody else already wrote. It can only rewrite it. Mm-hmm. You need to have somebody at the city council meeting. You need to have somebody at the high school football game. So the boots on the ground are what's important. Journalists could use AI as a tool. So we even have AI built into our system. So if somebody wants to use AI to write a story, they could plug in the notes, like here's what happened at the city council meeting. Write me a news story that talks about these things, and it'll spit out a story for them. That's amazing. So, what about libel and slander? Do you worry about someone who is mad at their girlfriend and they write this news story saying that she slept with 50 guys with a whole football team after the game? So we haven't had that. I will tell you, 2 weeks ago, I had 3 people send me emails threatening to sue me for content that was not accurate, no slander. So, well, one of them I thought could have been, and so I'm going to tell you how this went down because it was funny. Whenever somebody sends you an email threatening you, that means the content's accurate. I'm just going to let you know. So I reached out in the Pittsburgh market, Fayetteville, Pennsylvania. I have a couple journalists there, and these are pros. And so the guy that they were reporting on read the story, and it talked about him being arrested for hitting his wife, or battery is what it was, and then he also got a DUI. So I reached out to the journalist, and the journalist said to me, first of all, there was kind of a pause, like they were shocked, and they went, Sam, it's public information. And then exactly. They're like, that's exactly what was going through my head. Just get the police reports. And he goes, we got enough police reports. I mean, we're not like lying. Yeah, we're not making it up. And so I looked at, the guy was threatening, and so I said, look, first of all, we're covered under Section 230, which we're just a platform. I said, but I'm going to err on the side of the facts, and these are actually true. And it ended the whole story. Then we had another person in Palm Beach County. There's a organization called Veterans for America First. Yeah, I'm familiar. So do you know those guys, Stan Fitzgerald and Jared? Okay, so yep, I do. What they do is they go out and they vet somebody to make sure they have conservative values. Yes. I'm the first point of distribution. They endorsed me for my race in Georgia for Attorney General. It was probably Stan Fitzgerald. Yeah. Stan came to all of our events. I know Jared, he's running for Congress. Which means we would have published that article because that goes to the geography. They're in a huge war with Angie Wong. Angie Wong's the second one. So Angie Wong, they won a case which was a nothing burger, okay? It was literally a press release that said, here was the result of what happened in the court case, and it was published in Politics in Palm Beach County, and she threatened me. And I said, Angie, because I know Angie, I said, Angie, I would be happy to take this down. Please tell me the part of this that's inaccurate. And she couldn't. Want to know why? Because it wasn't like they were slandering. They say, we went to court, here was the result, and that was it. That was the second one. Third one was out of Arizona, and the person who sent me the email said, would you please, remove these because it's, really kind of. And I went, you know what, I will. It was no big deal. There weren't news stories. It was somebody that was basically complaining, right. Because maybe they. So the ones who attack are usually the ones who are, we're going to threaten you. And you can't threaten me. I mean, I'm like, it's like sending an email to Elon Musk in the sense that he owns the platform, right? Yeah. But I took the liberty of looking into it to see if they were right because I would want that stuff removed. For sure. And nothing happened. Yep. By the way, out of all of it. Well, Sam Anthony, it's a great story. I'm going to follow it, and I want to get on your platform. Anthony, you go over there and sign us up for yournews.com. Thank you. I had it right here. Yep. Yournews.com. Any investors interested, there's an invest button at the bottom. You can read about what we're doing. All right. Very good. Thank you so much. Thank you. Enjoyed it.